You just got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and say, okay, I'm not laying down anymore. I'm just so over being exhausted with my own BS. And that's where I make big changes, where I'm just like, I'm over me saying this stuff to the point where now it's either do it or shut up. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Hold Strong. I'm Nathan Marco, your host, obviously. And this is episode 3. I know we're only 3 episodes in, but thanks for the original OGs that have been watching since episode 1, 2 episodes ago. Today what we're going to do is, since I've covered my past a little bit, I'm taking in some questions. If you guys ever want to ask questions, go to my Facebook or nathanmarco.com, and you can write to us there or email us there. Go to my Facebook, message me through there, and either me or my staff will get a hold of it, and we'd love to answer any questions you guys have. The questions we got today, it looks like they're basically all around success and being an entrepreneur. So I'm going to go ahead and answer those for you guys. Number 1 is, does success go to your head? Well, I can only speak to the relevance of what I know. I've only been successful to a certain measurement, obviously. I mean, there's successful levels that I would love to reach that I haven't been at yet. But I do hang around. Quite a bit of my friends are extremely successful people. And I can speak from what I know, from the people and what I've done myself. I would say success goes to your head in the beginning. I would say that every person I've spoke to, including myself, the first time you start making any level of money, especially if it's like measurable, and when I say measurable, I don't mean like, because any dollar amount's measurable, I guess. But when I say measurable, I guess what I'm saying is that if you make a dollar amount that's sizable, where it's not typical anymore, pretty much to the point where you can pay for all the things you want, you can pay for your cars, pay for your houses, and you have so much left over that you're just like looking for stuff to buy at this point. And that happens to all of us when we first find success. Sometimes you got movie stars and rappers that just never end doing that pattern. But most of us that are in this for the business side of things, it does go to your head. Yeah, I would say in the beginning it definitely does. You spend a lot of your career, particularly as an entrepreneur, you spend a lot of your early years of your career kind of going against the grain, fighting with everybody on everything. Nobody kind of believes in what you're saying. They're always saying, "Oh, I hope you do good," but they never really expect you to do anything, I guess. I shouldn't say they wish you harm, but I don't think they ever really think you're going to make it. So when you do make it and you're making numbers that are ridiculous, I can toss out some numbers, and I don't want to lose anybody here by saying this, but I think the first time, now I had made, up until this point in my life, I had made, $6,000 a week a handful of times, quite a few times in my life. And then I started a company that generated significantly more. Like the one week it was 9,000, then it was 22,000. Or I'm sorry, no, it was 12,000, then like 22,000, then like 18. It was kind of bouncing around in there, like 18, 31,000, 25,000. This is per week. When I started getting paid like that, honestly, I focused a lot on myself and like burying myself more in the business, because that was the goal, right? Was to make a lot of money. And once you started making a crazy amount, as far as going to my head goes, to answer that question, you start, in the beginning, you start kind of treating people like you don't have to have them around. You start, and I don't know if that's such a bad thing. I think you start evaluating who's important in your life, and who's there because they want to be, and who's there because you're trying to like drag them along because it's been a friend of yours for like 15 years. They don't want to go do all the things with you, or don't want to hear about all the cool things you purchase anymore, but he's kind of still been your lifelong friend. Those people, I think, you start to like cut them kind of out of your life a little bit and start tightening your circle up around more successful people. And because you need more advice, frankly, you're getting into the dollar amount range where you really don't know a safe way to spend it or put it or what to invest in. You're kind of learning. But you go through and you'll start buying some things you've always wanted. And then there's some months, at least for me anyways, there was a month, I'd have to ask, was it last year or year before? It was year before last year when I'd spent 40-some thousand on Amazon. in September. It was the year before last. Year before last, I was going to do my taxes. So when you're an entrepreneur, you do your taxes. They get them all out. Your bank statements come out, and you start looking at your expenditures versus your income flow. And in September of would have been 2000, I spent roughly around. I could be off a couple grand here, but I spent roughly around $40,000 to $41,000 on Amazon on God knows what, just out of sheer boredom. And I remember doing a lot of it. I remember like sitting in bed and like ordering. One time I ordered like 22 baseball caps just because I wanted different colors and I wanted everything. I don't know. And you know at that point you're not going to run out. You're not thinking about running out of money because you're still buying things that you probably could have afforded when you didn't have that much. Just you're doing it in different quantity now. So yeah, I bought like a couple Segways that month. I really kind of went overboard that one. So yeah, it can go to your head. But if you stay in it long enough and you're surrounded by a good team, good people, you'll come out of it. I've never seen anybody get into it and not kind of get over their head in the beginning. I think you kind of got to get that part out of your system, and then you'll level out, plateau out, and then you'll start being grateful again. It just takes a minute. The second question I got is, does success ever feel empty to you? Yeah, of course. Absolutely, man. If you're not doing things that you really want to do, if you're not fulfilling what you started this for, there's definitely points. Like I said, and this kind of goes back to the beginning where you get in over your head and it kind of gets to your head. You start buying things that are just to kind of impress people you don't even like, just to kind of like say, ha, I told you so, I told you I could do it. So yeah, I think in those moments it's kind of empty because when you're done, after you've shown off and you've driven your car past your enemy's work about 900 times, and you've seen everybody you've wanted to see in it, and then it's just like, okay, do I really want this car? Is this really what I'm doing? And sometimes if you're not doing enough of what you like, in your spare time, and you don't have like a great love life and stuff like that, it definitely can feel very empty. I don't think success itself inherently brings emptiness. I just think that if you're gunning into it for the wrong reasons and you don't know how to handle it correctly, and you don't got a great like personal life, I think you can have a sense of emptiness. Yeah, but because when your money goes up to that level, you can afford things you never could before. You can kind of buy your time back. You can pay people to do things for you. You no longer worry about the financial struggles of little things that you used to before, like oil changes, groceries, anything, something ever breaks, you're like, just order it. You're not even thinking about like what that would cost. Like it just doesn't matter. So I think in those moments when you're satisfied that way and you're buying all the physical items you want, I guess it would boil down to, are you doing what you want to do? Are you living where you want to live? I moved to Florida because I wasn't getting enough where I was. I was in Illinois prior to this and had a great business. I was a part owner in like a ton of cars on 3 different car lots. And I loved what I was doing. I just hated where I was. So no matter how much money I made, I wasn't happy. I remember talking to my wife all the time, like begging for summer to come around because it was winter, like 7 months of the year, and it felt like a prison to me. I have all this money, right? I can do what I want. I live in a place that I'm not happy. So, yeah, absolutely. Again, I don't want to be confusing here, but success can maybe clarify emptiness. It can clarify spots that have always been empty, but now that the money has fulfilled those other spots, it's like now you can actually do what you want to do. So the third question I got here, I got 4 in total, guys. I got that I know of. I got my third one right here is, why does starting as an entrepreneur or on your way to success start with failure? Why does success start with failure, in short? I think it's because you don't know what you're doing. I think that's what it is. And if you have enough discipline and you're staying in it long enough and hard enough, and you're not unwilling to give up, unwilling to waver from your goals and where you already kind of set your targets at, I think you're going to go through quite a bit of turmoil in the beginning. You don't know how to. The infrastructure is always weak when you start out. We're going through a change in the company right now. We're we're expanding, and it's very painful. We talk about it almost every day. There's infrastructure is so important. Having a process and order is so important. And in the beginning, you just don't have a lot of that. So when you're in the beginning stages, you're the salesman, you're the manager, you're the janitor, you're the marketer. You're you're the salesman, if I already said that or not. You're everything. You're the project manager, you're the accountant, you're literally everything, man. So in the beginning, it's tough. Yeah, it's really hard. And failure is always happening up front because you're learning. So I don't think you're learning the wrong ways to do things. I think you're just learning better ways to do things. In the beginning, it feels like you make a decent amount of money, then something breaks, and then make some more money, and then someone quits, and and then you go through like a long time, I think, where like a portion maybe where you're just unsure of even your ability at it, and even if you're a professional, it's like, do I really know what I'm talking about? Do I really know as good as I claim I do? And just getting through that, just believe in yourself long enough, but I think that's part of everything. So I think that's why it starts with failure, because you haven't done it before, So kind of like dating a girl the first time or kissing a girl the first time, it's gonna suck. As smooth as you think you are, you're not. It's, if you were to kiss somebody seasoned in that area, they would be like, oh my God, this guy's definitely a first timer. This girl's definitely a first timer. So no matter what you do when you're starting, particularly with success, and the reason that this person is probably tying it to success is because it's so meaningful. Success is like a huge pinnacle part of your life. It's a actual road that you have to drive on to get to your destination. So when there's holes in the road, you're going to want to know why. So that's probably why. Fourth question is, why are targets important? Targets are extremely important, guys. I can't even express that enough. I had a meeting this morning with someone that wants to become an entrepreneur, wants to change some things in her life, and is scared to death. And a lot of it is she did not have any targets set up. Like, I had asked her, well, how much do you make now at your job? And she told me. And I said, well, how much of this product, XYZ, do you have to sell to make your money that you make right now? And she's like, well, I don't know. Well, how much profit margin is in XYZ? I don't know. Well, no wonder you're scared. You have no idea what you're doing. You have no targets set up. You don't even know, you haven't even sat down to figure the metrics out yet. So, if you sit down and look at, well, I can make $4 or $5 on this product every time I sell it. Well, the target should be, if whatever it is you're trying to make, if you want to make, $1,000, you have to figure out how I have to sell, this many of XYZ at $5 a piece to hit that target. And that will surpass what I make, at my job. Or, maybe I have to sell 100 of this item at $50 a piece, to meet the metrics, to, sustain that target. So, I think that's a lot to do with it. At 100 people at $5 a piece, it's $500 a day. Do I make more than $500 a day where I'm at now? If you make $200 a day, the target should be less. So I think targets are extremely important. I don't think you can grow without targets. I don't think you can measure without targets. I don't think you can assess like what you're doing each and every day without targets. Super, super important. I don't even know if I could grow, like none of my businesses could grow unless we had some sort of like target to reach out to so we can break it down. Most people, if you ask them, how much money would you like to make? And like, I'd like to make $1 million a year. Well, what does that break down to per month? And what does that break down to per week? I don't know. Well, then how do you know if you can ever make it or what kind of work you have to do to get to that dollar amount? It's not even a true target. It's just some fantasy dream that you're never going to reach, obviously, with no metrics built up. You have to know. So it's super important, particularly if you're wanting to start something or end somewhere in your life and you're just not satisfied where you're at. Targets are the most important thing you could be. Even if it was in real estate and you're like, I want to do this in real estate. Okay, well, the target should be X amount of properties is what I want to own, or I want to rent properties out. I need to have X amount of passive income. Okay, well, how much does rent cost? And what's the overhead going to cost? What's the profit margin going to be on each unit? And that'll tell me how many units I need. Like, targets are extreme. You can't do anything without targets. You're shooting in the dark all the time. And you'll never hit benchmarks without targets. Not unless it's just luck of the draw. It's life isn't like a scratch off. Like, you literally got to build this to work and function. You have to. So super, super, super important to have those. We have more questions? Mm-hmm. Okay. So hang on here, guys. I just got some more questions. All right. How do I stay motivated? Okay, I'm going to answer these. Now, I want to tell you guys that when I answer these questions, I'm answering them honestly. So it might not be what you've heard before, but it is the truth. Well, just to be clear, the question is, how do you stay motivated? I am not always motivated. That's the truth. There's a lot of days I wake up and I'm just like, I don't even want to, like, I quit in my mind 20 times that day, every single day. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's a lot. But I think that building the distance between where you are and where you want to be, and letting yourself understand that to sit here stagnant where I'm at today, doing nothing different, is more risky and more scary to me than moving the needle and taking the chance over here to see where this is going to go. So knowing this is a possibility that I could have have this private jet, that I could, vacation with my wife 365 days a year, that I could live on a sailboat and have massive amounts of income coming in, or I could have a company with 150 people that I can pay and change their lives. Like all of that, knowing that I have a bigger gift, or believing that I have a bigger gift for the world, is that's what pulls me forward. Knowing that if I died today, would I be okay with how my book has been written? And when I say book, I mean my life. Am I okay with what kind of situation I leave my wife in? And if I'm not, then I've got to go to work. And I don't mean like go clock in. I just got to get to work. I got to get to doing things and making a difference. So every day isn't always a day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, this is awesome that I have to do all this work. But gratitude plays a big part. Gratitude and grace. I think that if you are grateful, and a lot of times you guys won't find this out until something detrimental happens to you. So I hope that you guys find this out prematurely, because typically it's when you get retired or your personal time clock, your life, you start realizing that you might get punched out a little earlier than you thought through a bad diagnosis. That's when you start to find gratitude, and you start realizing that all the little things you cared about before are just that. They're just little things. And that what actually means a lot to you is what you've been getting every single day. So, just having massive gratitude and not being so complacent and lazy. When I'm gracious and I'm grateful for what I get to do, it's like, why wouldn't I try harder? If I have more to give the world, more to give my wife, why would I just give her enough? Why would I just be the average version of me? Why wouldn't I crank that up? Doesn't even make sense. So that's how I stay motivated. I literally use my wife as my motivation, and my people around me, oh my God, my employees, just wanting more for them and to deliver something for them that no one would deliver for me. And that's just paving kind of a way and give them a direction to get somewhere, and use me as a vehicle to kind of maybe reach their dreams. That's what I would like to do. How do I manage the stress? Lots of alcohol and beer and cigarettes. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do any of those things. But, usually I handle my stress by laying down at night, taking a bunch of NyQuil, and not remembering until the morning. No, again, just playing with you guys. Definitely don't do that. How I handle my stress, honestly, is I constantly remind myself what I'm doing and what I get to do. Me personally, I remember when I first had my first job working for myself, I was so grateful that I could come and go as I pleased. That was huge for me. I wasn't making a ton of money, but I got to do anything I wanted. And I mean that like at a small scale. Like if my friends were all going jet skiing for the day, I didn't have to miss. If it was someone's birthday or Christmas was on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after, because I have a big family, I didn't have to miss any of those events. If something special is coming up, everyone's going to the movies, I get to go. That was enough drive for me on my days where I'm just like, well, maybe I should go get a job. And I'm like, no, I'm going to have to give up all these things I've been doing. So again, it boils back to just being grateful. How do you prevent burnout? That's a really good question. So me particularly, this is totally just me. I like to vacation. You can ask anyone that's around me, works with me, works around me, works for me. I am a vacation-aholic. And that is not for social media or for you guys. even though you may see a lot of what I do there because I'm a social media network and that's what I do, I post a lot of content. I'm a vlogger, but that is not for you guys. That is literally, you guys being able to see it is a byproduct of it being for me. Anyone that's close to me knows that I literally can't be in this house very long. I start feeling stir crazy. I start getting kind of worn out really quick, especially when the workload gets big. I need a change of scenery. I can work 7 days a week around the clock as long as things around me are either changing or easy on the eyes. So for me personally, I love the beach. I love the beach. I love the ocean, like the sand, like the sound of it. I even like it's kind of like if you've never been to the ocean, it's kind of got like a nasty fish smell to it. But I like it. I like it because it reminds me of me being like serenity, So, it's kind of one of those things that kind of like lethargic, that brings you back to that certain moment where you're just like, yeah, that's, or cathartic, I guess would be what the right word would be for that. But yeah, so for me, it's vacationing. I loved vacation. I don't mean big, expensive. I don't have to get a big mega mansion when I travel. I mean, it doesn't matter. I can literally drive down and sleep in a van as long as I get a change of scenery. That's how I manage the stress. I get to hang out with my wife and I head down and I do those things. You might have something different. Like maybe for you, it's, drawing or painting or doing yard work or, working on a car or whatever it may be. That's how I handle, my burnout. Anytime I feel like that's going to go down. And also, again, just boiling back to the gratefulness, realizing that if I give this up, what's the consequence? It's called the Benjamin Franklin clause, when you can list out all the positives and all the negatives, and whichever one is greater is the one, you want to probably lean into, whatever one makes more sense. And you kind of close yourself. So my positives are so big on what I get to do and the life I get to live right now, that that if I ever changed to something else, I would lose like 3/4 of them. So just reminding myself how lucky I am that I get to do these things. How do you deal with self-doubt and doubt from others? Oh God. Well, that's a big question. So I don't have much self-doubt, very low amounts. I used to have a lot more. And it came, ironically, from others. People questioning you and like giving you, kind of shooting holes in your your painting of life that you want to paint for yourself. Well, what if this happens? Or what if you get sick? Or what if you don't have insurance? Or what if you do that? There's always like a bunch of what ifs. There's always a million reasons not to do something. And so I think that was a big part of it. Just other people kind of trying to drag me down. And what helped me with that was truly the biggest thing that helped me was moving, and that sounds so bad because they're all my friends, but I didn't realize how much like negative, I guess, information or outside influence I had until I had moved somewhere. I moved, and for those of you who don't know, I used to live about an hour and a half southwest of Chicago, and I moved to Florida, Central Florida, and I kept my house in Chicago, which I still have to this day. And I relocated in Florida. And the reason I left it is because I was just nervous in case things don't work out. I have somewhere to go back to. I wasn't really sure because I came down here on a whim. Literally did. I traveled down here for 4 days and on a vacation just to see my father. He was traveling down here. Traveled back, and it was middle of December, or maybe it was the first week of January. Either way, it was like -8 when I got on the plane in Chicago, and it was 70 when I got off. So I thought, oh my God, what am I doing living in Chicago? So that was life-altering for me. I literally flew back home, and within 10 or 12 days, I had all my clothes in my car traveling down here to Florida to figure out how to live here. I didn't even have a job yet. Neither did my wife. I just knew that I would be willing, and I remember talking to her about it. I said, look, she asked me, do you really want to go there? If you do, we can do whatever you want if you really want to. And I told her that, to me, I would rather be poor in this weather, in this beauty, in the sunsets, in the ocean, and the beach. I'd rather be poor here than rich back home. So I knew that if I could just make it down here at all, even like low end, I would be happier, or at least I felt that way. And I knew that if it didn't work out, I could always just go home. It's not like I need a special license or certificate or pass a certain test to cross back the borders to go back home. But it was the greatest thing I ever did. So leaving though, segregated me from all the people I was around, and it changed my life. Seen things different. I was able to be around more successful people inherently, just because the state had more in each town I was in. There were bigger towns, and it just changed my life. I mean, it was probably one of the most powerful and landmark events that happened in the last 20 years of my life. I want to be an entrepreneur, but I'm afraid to quit my job. How do I know whether or not to quit and become an entrepreneur? I want to be an entrepreneur, but I'm afraid to quit my job. Well, I think that fear is going to be, even when you're you are an entrepreneur, you're going to be scared. I don't think fear ever goes away, to be quite honest with you. So I think the best thing you can do with fear, though, most things that come from fear, anytime you're scared and you lean into it, usually greatness comes out of it. That's usually how I measure if something's going to go good or bad for me. If I'm nervous to do it, it means I should probably run forward with it pretty quick. It's kind of like getting an ass whooping. I'm going to get my ass beat. Just do it quick and do it right now. I'd rather do a lot of what I don't want really fast, so I can do a lot of what I do want as long as I want. So if you're gonna pound me, just pound me. I don't want to talk about it for 4 or 5 months where someday you're gonna pound me, like when you quit your job, maybe starting my own line of business. Oh my God, it's gonna be scary. Maybe I'll end up doing it, or I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna put some more money aside. Dude, just punch me in the mouth right now. Just get it over with. I don't even want to talk about you beating me up anymore. Just beat me up. Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen in 6 months. It's going to happen tomorrow. At whatever point it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I just want to get it over with because I can't escape it. So jumping from a job to an entrepreneurism to like working for yourself is painful. It's scary. It feels all wrong. Everything inside you. And you're probably going to have to give some things up that you don't want to give up. Probably going to have to downsize some things, sell some things, but only in the projection of moving forward. Literally, that's the idea, is to sell the crap I don't need today, downgrade my house, downgrade my car, maybe sell some of my cool items I don't want to get rid of, knowing and believing in me enough that if I can just work hard enough at this, that I'm going to get it done, and I'll buy them all back, but I'll buy them all brand new. And you'll do that. You really will. If you are disciplined enough in this business to stay in it, you'll get everything you ever sold to get here tenfold. Tenfold. You just got to stay in it and really stay in it, not just wing it. So, I don't know how I know whether or not to quit and become one. Yeah, I would just quit. I would get a game plan together. I wouldn't just like quit today, but I would get a game plan together. Again, that's where targets play a role, like I spoke about earlier. Put some targets on paper, break down what you'd have to make to meet the bills. Eradicate what you can right now, sacrifice what you have to. And if you're embarrassed about what other people will think of you, then move. Move and do it somewhere else. That way you have nobody to impress. If you don't know anybody, you don't have to have cool stuff. You have nobody to show. So you're not looked at as a failure, because immediately when you downgrade things, people think, oh, he's losing it. He's going out of business. He's going to file bankruptcy. And that's not always a strategy. Maybe bankruptcy is a strategy that you use. It might be. You might have to do that to get all the way out because there's no other way. Maybe you don't see another path. I got a good friend of mine back in Illinois today that's multimillionaire that tells me that bankruptcy was one of the best things he'd ever gone through, and he thinks that everybody should do it. And I believe he's probably right. It'll recalibrate everything in your life, and you'll start realizing, okay, all that stuff was foolish, and this was the stuff I really should have been doing. You'll really rethink things if you have a second chance around. So, I wouldn't be so scared of losing your job. Jobs are a dime a dozen, my friend. It doesn't matter, there's a trillion jobs. Go look at any newspaper, any Indeeds, any Monster.com, any job fair. Go to Marketplace and look for jobs. There's trillions of them everywhere. You're not going to fall short on a job. It's not a problem. So definitely try it now, but you will run short on time. So make sure you're trying your stuff right now. You have nothing to fear. What's your most satisfying entrepreneur moment so far? Wow. What is your most satisfying? Wow, I've never really thought about that. What is my most satisfying entrepreneur moment so far? That's a really good question. You have to give me a second here to think about that. Because there's been so many along the way. Moment. There was a couple. I would say one that sticks out would be one that sticks out would be a business. We had a marketing company, and I remember we were just getting it going, and we were running a bunch of advertisements for leads, and we just hired on a handful of a new closing team, new closers. We just trained them. Everyone's brand new, and it was a very stressful time because we didn't have the capital. We were hoping that we were going to do good enough to supply these closers, these salesmen with enough leads where they could make a living too. And because everyone's kind of riding on you doing what you said. And that was a very scary time. And I remember being in Las Vegas for a meeting with three other people. So we were in a car. And I remember the closers, because we would still process. At that point, we were small enough where they would call us still and we would process the payment. We had one guy that would process the payment. And in that moment, we were driving down one of the main strips in Las Vegas. I can't remember what it's called, but right by right behind the Luxor and all the casinos and everything. And we pulled over in a place, and I remember it distinctively because the place we pulled over in had a bunch of rental, McLarens and Lambos and cool stuff. I thought that was kind of neat because he had to process a payment. At the same time, another closer called us to process a second payment. And then so a graphics designer that was with me that does video, he did video work for me. He would follow me around and videotape. He had to process payments while the first guy was processing them. And then the first guy was getting more calls to process more payments, but he couldn't even finish his. So they had to forward those to me and my wife that were there. So we had 4 of us in a car, a rental car, in the middle of Las Vegas, processing payments, and I think right there we made I don't know, probably anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And it was just everyone's got scrap paper. We're in the car, scribbling on anything. Okay, what's your credit card number? What's your expiration date? Okay, and you got this kind of lead package with how many of these? And we were all writing it down. And it just, that'll be a moment that I'll probably never forget because I remember finishing it all out. And my partner was there with me. And I remember when we were done, I was talking to my partner about it. And I said, man, dude, we could, it was the first and I had tracked over $1 million a year before this, just so you understand. But that was the first moment in that business where I was just we could really maybe do this. And I remember telling him that, dude, we don't even have to go back home. If this continues like this, we could travel forever. We'll just buy new clothes on the run. We're making so much money. We don't need to go back to the office. We'll just travel for a living. And although that kind of sounds a little unorthodox today, but nonetheless was very true. And we actually grew too big, too fast. Infrastructure was too weak to support it. But that was, even though there were some downsides that came later, just with weak infrastructure, learning lessons that we had to go through. That was probably one of the moments that stick out in my life that I remember when we were doing it, it stuck out. It wasn't later having to look back and reminisce. It was literally in the moment. I was like, this was powerful. This was so big to me, such a big deal to me. So yeah, that was probably one of the biggest ones to me. Many stick out to me looking back when you're speaking, to people. Remember we had that conversation, we were talking about employees and we were flying from this place to this place and you're thinking about your life and you're like, man, we were, it was a business of ours that we were running, that we were flying all over the nation, hiring people from all over the country and making money. It was a super fun time of my life, and we're strategizing right now to do things very similar to that again, a whole new strategy, way different infrastructure, but more a rock solid plan. This one won't fail. So not that one would have, but this one is more bulletproof than pretty much anything else we had built so far. So we have a couple new things in the works now that are really huge, and I'm hoping to trump that memory. But that was one of the first ones where I just thought, wow, this is really, it just feels different. It just kind of hits different when you're getting thousands of dollars paid to you in in 5 minutes. And that wasn't the only time that day that we got paid. We got paid multiple times that day. We averagely got paid between like maybe 10 to 20 times a day. Well, we got paid more than that, but that's when we would do our withdrawals were around that time. 20 some closers. Sometimes we get paid 20 times a day, but we don't take the withdrawal. You might only take it 10 times a day once the account that they put it in gets full. But anyways, yeah, I mean that was just such an amazing time in my life, and I'll never forget it. That was so huge. Even if I don't accomplish anything else from here forward in my life, that was huge. I mean, that was gargantuan for me. So definitely the most memorable parts. So, well, guys, that's all the questions I have for today. I got multiple laptops around me. I apologize for that. But yeah, if there's anything else you guys want to know, any questions you guys would like us to cover, we're doing these episodes every single Wednesday as of right now. So, and I apologize for the people that have been watching since the beginning. There may not be video tied to the audio quite yet, but there will be. These are all recorded with video, and they will be tied together and then reposted again later so you guys can see the video and hear at the same time. But like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at any point, and we'll make sure we answer those questions. If you have any, especially when it comes to sales, investment stuff, entrepreneurism, or just taking these chances, just life stuff. We're definitely covering everything we can here in this. I've learned a lot, made a ton of money, and I'm trying to be that voice of reason or advice that I didn't have growing up. I had my father and stuff that was semi-successful, but not anywhere, on the level that I wanted to be at. So I really didn't have anybody. I was from a small town, so I'm just trying to give back what I didn't have. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I'm so sorry it ran a little bit long, about 36 minutes. So I appreciate everything. Thank you guys for hanging around and tuning in for us this week. I will see you guys next week. Again, thank you. This is Nathan Marco, and you've watched Hold Strong.